G'day Hammerheads. Well, it's been a couple of years since Ryobi shocked the world by releasing a very good rotary hammer, this little guy here. And today we are going to be taking a look at its baby brother, this little fella here. So if you're on team lime, green, whatever the hell this color is, or you're thinking about getting into it, then stick around. Well, there you go. I reckon it's more of a chartreuse yellow actually. Lime green indeed. Now this little guy is the PSBRH01 and it is not actually available in Australia yet, so this is the US version. It was shipped all the way here by like Piranhas or Warrior Women or something, I don't know. But it's probably going to have a different model number and potentially a couple of different specs when it actually arrives here. But she is rated to 5/8 inch, which is about 16 millimeters, so that's how I'm treating her. So out of the box, the bare tool is, fairly similar in size to the bigger one. This guy, if you recall, is rated to 1 inch or about 26 millimeter capacity, so that's a much bigger hammer. And you'll note this one doesn't have a handle. For this testing, I did use a handle. I just grabbed a handle from some other drill, but any 43 millimeter handle should fit on there if you want one. So this little guy is a drop motor, so the motor's down here, hammering stuff up that way. It's got a little vibration control up there, and it's got that nice sort of phaser shape, that sort of swept forward shape. That means when you're using it one-handed, you're pushing in line with the drill bit. So nice and comfy to use. And when you whack a battery in there, it's pretty well balanced. About as good as a small tool with a giant battery on there is going to feel. Now this guy is a 2-mode drill, so that's drill only and hammer drill. Unlike the bigger one, it doesn't have the hammer only function. So that's, it's a bit unfortunate, but pretty much all the really small rotary hammers are going that way nowadays, even though everybody always complains about it. So hey Ryobi, maybe the next version, bring back the hammer function. And this guy is brushless, so that means it has a more efficient electronically controlled motor, unlike the old version, which by all accounts sucked ass, so I never bothered trying it. So the big boy has these extra battery terminals on here to make use of the high output, well, high performance Ryobi batteries. And I did plenty of testing on that a while ago. Go check out that video if you like, but spoilers, it didn't help all that much. And the new guy doesn't have those extra terminals, so it's not really going to benefit from the high performance battery. And you know what, that's fair enough. This is a small one-handed tool designed to be one-handed, so it's not really reasonable to expect a high performance fancy battery on there to make it work to its full potential. Because of the post style battery, this part down here is a little girthy for my hands, and you'd think I'd be used to that by now, but anyway. And she is rubberized up the front if you needed to hold it this way, which, not very comfortable, but hey, they're saving $1 or $2 by not giving you a front handle. That's what you got to do. So all up, feels like a nice, durable, solid little unit. Alright, so let's look at the specs. Right here in chartreuse yellow, we've got both these Ryobis. The big one is called SDS 18X here in Australia, or P223 elsewhere. And the new guy's only got the one name so far. And you know what, honestly, tool makers, just give it one name. What's with the two names? So big guy costs $300 dues. Little guy does not cost any dollar dues yet, $149 US. Probably going to be $199 when it gets out here. Weight, 2.6 kilos versus 1.5 kilos. Capacity, 26 mil versus 16, or about an inch versus 5/8. Now, the impact energy, 2.5 joules, or I don't know what that is in hogsheads or whatever you use in the Americas, versus, well, we don't know. They don't actually say. Believe it or not, they have 3 languages on the box, and they tell you these specs, which are probably the less important ones. Nowhere that I could find does it actually say the impact energy on here at all. So, thanks a lot. It's probably going to be 1.2 joules, 1.3, something like that. Actually, let's take a look. What else we got? So this guy's same size, 1.3, 1.1, 1.5, it won't be that big. DeWalt 1.4, yep, so this guy's probably going to be, 1.3 or something like that. Impacts per minute, they reckon 5,000 versus 6,200. Impact power, so that's these two multiplied together. So for the little guy, can't actually tell you. And RPM, 1400 versus 1250. So interestingly enough, the smaller one revs a little slower. And let's check those revs. $11.85, so just under the 1250 they reckon. And about 1380, so just shy of what they promise. All right guys, so let's get drilling. The first test I do with the really compact hammers like this guy is an 8mm, so that's 8 by 80 mils, drilling into some concrete, which is a perfectly fine task for a small hammer like this. But I only do this size really with the tiny compact hammers, because obviously a great big one like this is gonna handle that fine. So for this run, we're gonna be comparing the 5 amp hour standard battery with the high performance. See if this guy actually helps at all. Alrighty, so surprisingly enough, the 6 amp hour high performance did actually help a little bit, about 10% or so. But realistically, you shouldn't have to use a high performance battery on there, so I'm just going to stick with the 5 amp hour normal battery for the rest of these tests. And compared to the other hammers rated about the same size, a little bit slower than that guy, a little bit faster than that guy. DeWalt, fair bit slower than the DeWalt, but that killer bee, she'll get ya. All up, not too bad at all. Alright, so the next test is 12 by 80 mil, or it's about ½ inch by about 3 and a bit inches, drilling into the same concrete. And this is a test that every single rotary hammer does, so you'll see these two, as well as, well, every other one I've tested. So let's see how they go. Alright, nicely done from Team Chartreuse Yellow. So up towards the front of the pack, we've got the big 1-inch Ryobi. This is actually just behind a couple of other 1 inches, so nicely done there. And snugly within the subcompact range, we've got the little Ryobi, just in front of the old Hilti, just behind the Killer Bee. Pretty solid result. Alright, so our last test as usual is the max capacity. So these rotary hammers all have the same shank on their drill bit, that's 10mm. But they are rated to different drill bit sizes. And that maximum rated capacity is, based on a few things, mostly the impact force, but also the torque and some other stuff. And it's basically what the manufacturer reckons this thing can handle every so often. It's not comfy, they don't like doing it that big, but if you got to, she'll handle it. So drilling into the same depth in the same concrete, let's see how they go. Alrighty, nicely done. So we've actually got a reversed order here. The little guy is well towards the front. And the back guy, well, dead last out of this pack. But seeing as she is meant to be a powered down version of this guy here, not too surprising that she's going to be running a little slower. So drilling a 16mm hole is obviously a lot easier than drilling a 26mm hole. So we do tend to see the smaller hammers up front. And you know what? The new guy is basically just where you'd expect. This guy here is the old Milwaukee, that's rated to the same. Better than an old Milwaukee, not quite as good as the DeWalt, basically where you'd expect it to be. Alright hammerheads, so there you go. I am pretty impressed with this little guy. I really do love a rotary hammer that fits in your hand and works pretty well. So I am a big fan of the tiny rotary hammers. These are my go-to tools because I mostly use them for drilling pretty small holes, but in remote, hard to get to places. So one of these little guys, grab and go, throw it in your pack, no worries. Big fan. But if you are, say, a DIYer or a home yowner, and you're not really sure which one of these you should get, well, consider this guy has the hammer only function, so that's for chiseling stuff off. But it also hits a lot harder, so it's going to be capable of doing a lot more than this little guy. I would really be getting this one if you know that you need to drill a bunch of smaller holes in concrete pretty readily. She will do that great, and a normal hammer drill will suck at that. So this is a good tool if you know what you want. If you don't know what you want, I would grab the bigger one. And the other reason I like this little guy is because that's actually a hint of what the other TTI brands are going to be doing. So Ryobi is actually owned by the same company as Rigid, or AEG, and also Milwaukee. So even though Milwaukee is kind of a separate company, they do obviously have a lot of cross-pollination. So I'm really excited to see how much of this ends up in the next version of the red tool. You can see they're already pretty similar. I reckon in the next year or so, Milwaukee will be releasing a new version and it's going to look just like this. And then maybe 5 or 6 years later, it'll be available here in Australia. So there you go, Hammerheads from Team, what was it? Chartreuse, Yellow and I. Thanks for watching. Scratch you later and happy hammering. Marteau rotatif. The fuck?